I'm still alive. Sergeant McLaughlin says, you got to keep yelling because I got a big mouth, and the hole was right there. And he was 15 feet back. Nobody would hear him. As time progressed that evening, I can't express to you how horrible it was. And this is the most important part of this story, because I talk about faith, hope, and love. 3 things my mother instilled in me. Having faith, whether it's religion, but most importantly in yourself. Having hope. Always have hope and love. But at that point, I wanted to die. I made my peace with God. I said, God, thank you for 33 great years. Thank you for 4 great years with my little girl, Bianca, my beautiful wife, Allison. For my parents bringing me to this country with so much opportunity that I got to see, because after being in the Navy and seeing 11 countries, even as a 19-year-old sailor coming back, we always knew this is the greatest country on earth. And I said, Lord, if I'm going to die today, at least I died trying to do the right thing, helping people get home. And I closed my eyes. And I had what you can call a dream, a vision, whatever you want to call it. I see a man coming toward me with a white glowing robe, no face, brown hair. Over one shoulder, over his left shoulder in the back is a pond with beautiful trees. And over his right shoulder, tall, endless sea of grass. And a peace came over me. And I asked God for 2 things. I said, one is to somehow, some way let me be there for the birth of my little girl, because I knew I wasn't going to make it. But I'd like to be there somehow looking down to see my wife give birth, because my baby was going to be born in November. And the second thing is, God, when I get to heaven, because I figured everybody's going to heaven that day because these cowards, these terrorists attacked regular Americans and people, human beings who were just trying to make a better life for their families. I said, God, when I get to heaven, I just want a glass of water. Because I was so thirsty. We looked like we were statues because of all the concrete. I was just so thirsty. And I closed my eyes. I was ready to die. But when I saw that vision, this figure's coming to me. And it's okay if you laugh. What do I see? He's got a bottle of water in his hand. And I woke up out of that. And I woke up, and this is important, kids. I woke up with a fight in my heart that I wasn't going to give up. Because at that point I made a decision. If I would have died, if I would have given up, I would have given up on my sergeant because nobody would hear him. I would have given up on my family because I didn't fight hard enough to get home. I would have given up on my country. But most of all, I would have given up on myself. And at that point I said, you know what? If I'm going to die today, it's on my terms. And we fought for a lot of hours. At 8 o'clock that night, I heard United States Marine Corps. Can anybody hear us? I'm thinking, we're at war. The Marine Corps are here. So there were 2 Marine reservists, Jason Thomas and David Carnes, along with a civilian who found us. They got NYPD ESU truck, their SWAT team from New York City. 3 guys jumped in there, Scott Strauss, Chuck Sharika, and Patty McGee. For 3 hours they worked on me. At one point I told them to cut my leg off because they couldn't get my leg off. Free my leg. And they said, no, we'll stay till get you out whole. And they were ordered several times to let us die, to leave us, because there was an encroaching fire. And these guys said, no, we're going to stay here. It took 3 hours to get me out. Finally got me loose, put me on a Stokes basket, brought me upstairs, topside. That's the first time I cried that night. I didn't cry when the guys died. I didn't cry from my pain and all the horrors down there. I cried when I asked, where is everything? And a firefighter looked at me and said, it's all gone, kid. Because I knew how many people were down there. I felt like I failed, like we failed. They sent me down, about 700 people put me in an ambulance. They sent me to Bellevue Hospital. The second time I cried that night, when they took me off the ambulance, because as a police officer, firefighter, EMT, if you get hurt and it's busy at the hospital, you hope at least somebody will peek at you and see how you're doing. But when I asked, where is everybody? This was around 11:30 at night, 11:45. They said, you're it. Then there's no more survivors right now. That really broke my heart. I had 11 surgeries in a week. Me and my sergeant ended up being the only 2 people to survive from underneath the World Trade Center. We found that out the following year when we went back to thank the NYPD for saving us. They said, you're the only 2 to survive from under it. Only 16 of us survived when the World Trade Center fell down. Mostly 13 in a stairwell with FDNY, another Port Arthur police officer, Dave Lim, and a civilian. And a lady came out the last day, Guzman. She was the last person pulled out from the World Trade Center. She was stuck in a stairwell till noon the following day. But what's important about this story is that I'm here to show you that 220 stories fell on me. and my sergeant, and we survived. And people always say to us, we can't think of anything worse than the World Trade Center falling on you. And what I want everybody here to learn today is that we all have our own World Trade Centers. Some of us have already had our own World Trade Centers. It's what we do with ourselves when we have a World Trade Center moment. That World Trade Center moment could be that you lost a loved one, you found out you got cancer, you had a car accident. And kids, it could be as big to you as overcoming a test. But with faith, hope, and love, those three things, if you believe in yourself, if you have that hope, and you have that love and that fight, you will overcome things. And for some reason, if you don't overcome those things, you do it on your terms. You can look yourself in the mirror and say, I did the best I could. And that's all we were trying to do that day on 9/11. We were trying to do the best we could to get people home. Did we get everybody home? No. But it's one of the most massive and most successful rescues in U.S. history. And on that day, we showed the world that as Americans, as human beings, there's more love in this world than evil. Don't ever forget that. Those three things. Today and every day, I honor those, my counterparts that were on my team by living. Making sure that every day I take a moment to remember them and to enjoy every single day. And to be kind to others. I cannot tell you, with today's news media, right? How many kids here are scared of mass shootings, honestly? Well, after 9/11, I started speaking because kids were scared to get on planes because it's terrorists. And that's why I started speaking, because I need everybody to understand this. There's evil in this world. It'll always be evil. But there's more good in this world than bad. And at the moment that you start fearing the bad people, we lose. You don't go in your life fearing anybody. You get up, you believe in your law enforcement, your firefighters, your first responders, your teachers. They will take care of you. There's always going to be bad out there. But we don't start living our lives because of that. After 9/11, again, a lot of kids didn't want to get on planes. Antonio Rodriguez's wife, because Antonio was from Portugal, was taking the kids back to Portugal, and the kids didn't want to get on. And she said, you know what? Your father would be ashamed. We're not going to let these terrorists control our lives. We're going to get on a plane, even though we have fear,